Hey, how you doing? Good afternoon. It's Friday, December 7th. I'm Brandon Devnich from i3D Themes and Pegasaas.com with this week's interactive number 109, where we share what we're passionate about and what we've been working on in the i3D Themes and Pegasaas.com design and code labs. This has been a monumentally crazy week for all sorts of different announcements. So I'm going to start off in the design lab. Colin has recovered from his vacation and he has begun work again on his brand new design that's based off the Bootstrap 4 CSS framework and JavaScript. It's going to be a website template for Dreamweaver, for Expression Web, for WordPress, and he's taken a great deal of time in thinking about how best to construct the pages with the CSS. With the launch of Google PageSpeed version 5, just about a month ago, not quite, there were new methodologies to consider when doing web development. And we figured if we're going to be, building these websites, best to really think about the new reality of, how best to optimize web pages when you're doing a website template or WordPress theme. It's very hard to pre-optimize a package for sale because so much happens after we provide the website template or WordPress theme to the customer. You would need to minify the images, or I should say tinify, compress the images, minify the CSS and HTML, analyze the page for critical CSS, then defer your render blocking resources and your unused CSS. It gets pretty complicated to do that ahead of time, never mind afterwards. But Colin is taking this opportunity to see how the components are structured and then build the template and the design from there. So he's actually working on the pages right now, which is pretty exciting. Maybe a January 1st launch, we'll see. It'd be nice to have that ready for January. On top of that, he's been working on a bunch of custom projects, keeping busy, lots of phone calls. And just getting ready for the Christmas season, which takes me into, this is sort of, I'm getting off track here first. I don't want to forget this. This weekend is, on a personal note, my annual Christmas tree hunt. Now, for the last few years, I've videoed this and actually shared it on the i3D Themes Facebook page. And in it, although I don't normally advertise my children, we do see that there's kids screaming in the background as I'm hunting madly for a tree that everybody can agree upon. It seems to be like 25 miles into the woods. It's not quite that far, but it feels like when you're hauling this tree back. And so we make it a big adventure. We actually travel, probably an hour away, and just thinking about what we're going to do this year. It should be pretty exciting. Last year I passed the torch, or the saw, so to speak, onto my eldest son because he really wanted to have a hand at cutting this tree down. I'm fine with that, I'll be honest. These saws are not exactly sharp. But anyways, I've completely fallen off track here. So moving back, what has also happened this week? Some big things. First of all, Microsoft went and blew our minds. They said, they're scrapping development of the Edge website, or the Edge web browser. So it used to be called Internet Explorer. They redeveloped it, started redeveloping, but it's their own web browser that they've had forever. Edge was a complete rebuild for Windows 10. But they've decided we're going to scrap it. What? Yeah, and we're going with Chrome. What? So they're gonna still have the Edge browser, but it's not going to be built off of their Edge HTML rendering engine. They're going to be using the Chromium HTML rendering engine, which is Chromium is the open source version of Chrome that Chrome uses. So, and they're also going to be using the Chrome version of JavaScript parser. So this is actually like, why don't we just all use Chrome? Well, we do. But Microsoft has to bundle something in with their products, obviously. But in any case, over 60% of people use the Chrome browser on the internet, which is pretty significant. And so that's high penetration. Now the Chrome aspect is also gonna help cover the newer versions of Edge. I guess they're gonna keep that name. But from a developer's point of view, that's really interesting in that it's good and it's bad. It's good because there's going to be consistency. We're not going to have to write certain hacks to make the Edge browser do what we think it should do. On the other side of it is that there's only really one browser now. I mean, there's also Firefox. And Firefox lately and some of their updates have been very, very good. Chrome has been getting slower, and so it's a little bit of this and that, but that's just the way the internet works. Also this week, in really, 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 really big news, WordPress dropped version 5.0, launched it. 5.0 is like a huge release. WordPress 5.0. So if you haven't heard about this and you're using WordPress, here you go. This version uses a brand new editor. So before you used to have a box where you could type stuff in, change some styles, make them headers, or maybe highlight something, make it a link. This new editor is called Gutenberg, and it is more visually based. There's no real editor or real toolbar. It's quite a bit more complex. And so they pushed this out yesterday. I don't know if it was really ready to be pushed out. I'll let you try it out. When you go to download WordPress 5, you do have the opportunity to download an optional plugin which will keep the old editor, which might be good. I'd maybe recommend downloading that at this time so you can activate it if you wish. But the Gutenberg editor is all visual based, but the one thing I hate just really don't care as a web developer are scroll bars in scroll bars. I like one scroll bar on the side. Not two, where you're trying to scroll around and that sort of thing. So we'll see. They're giving the old traditional editor plugin. They're going to support that up until 2021. So that gives us a couple years to play around with, let them work out the bugs in the Gutenberg editor. But there you go. So if you're using WordPress, watch for that update. Also, in ginormous news here, we launched Pegasaas 2.0. So Pegasaas Accelerator is our automated WordPress performance optimization plugin. Speeds up your WordPress websites. And it was about a year ago, this week or last week, that we released the original version of Pegasaas Accelerator. And it's come a long way since then. But this new version is the biggest update we've ever done. Has probably 25 to 30 different feature updates or new features in it. It addresses the changes that were made just less than a month ago through Google PageSpeed Insights when they updated their insights to version 5. This new version 5 of Google PageSpeed Insights is focused on performance and load time and render time of the pages. Not so much about what you do to the pages, but how fast everything is. So we had to scramble. We're like, what has happened to page speed? The scores all changed. And I said this a couple weeks ago, is that when on November 11th, we had a mobile page speed score on Pegasaas.com of I think it was 98 or 99 out of 100. And on Monday morning, I had 39. And it wasn't that anything changed in the pages. It's just our perception of how well they were doing, how much opportunity there was to optimize further. And so we have been working diligently over the last 3, almost 4 weeks in addressing all of the new recommendations, new opportunities to make web pages faster. Now, this new version of Google PageSpeed Insights is all about, really, how fast your web pages load on a mobile device, because they're going to load fast on a desktop computer. So there's new metrics, new ways of calculating the score used to be a real big mystery before, and it had to do with things that you were doing to the page. But this new system is really all about how fast the page loads and renders in the page. So there are 5 metrics that PageSpeed is used to calculate the PageSpeed score. Each one of them are weighted differently. So for the first one is first contentful paint. That's when something draws to the browser window for the first time. First meaningful paint, something a little bit more meaningful on the page. Time to interactive, which is probably the most important metric, which is when the page becomes usable. It's been rendered enough, there's enough rendered into it, and it becomes usable. So if you're on a mobile device, bloop, up comes the page, everything is there, and you're able to scroll through and do something. So time to interactive is probably the most important metric. It's weighted the most of all the 5. The next metric is something called speed index, which is roughly equivalent to fully loaded time. So if you use GT metrics or anything like that, the fully loaded time is when all your resources more or less are loaded into the page. And then the last one is first CPU idle. It means when the CPU or the processing engine of the web browser has stopped processing, either loading fonts in or style sheets or rendering stuff in the page. That when it first becomes idle is an indicator of how well the page is optimized as well. Really, really complex to figure out what affects what. So Pegasus now does this for you, where it will go and through the list of opportunities and apply the best possible solution. And yeah, Pegasus 2.0 this week, so we're pretty excited about that. Anyways, I should probably go here. I'm gonna have to go find my Santa hat, because of course we're gonna go hiking through the woods this weekend to go find ourselves a family Christmas tree. But anyways, I hope you've had a fantastic and exciting week, excellent week, and you got great plans ahead of you for the weekend. We'll talk to you again next week. All right, bye-bye.